You usually see teams with 2 Mighty Strikes, 2 HP regions, and the final 2 EX skills usually being Enfeeble, Rend Shield or Bravery Conduit, or Teleport if there's a marksman. The reason for these choices have to do with that, in essence, Dissidia NT is about dealing HP damage to incapacitate your opponents. These skills are the best at aiding in dealing HP damage and counteracting it. The game sorts the common EX skills into 2 categories, buffs and debuffs. The buff EX skills affect you and your teammates, while the debuff EX skills affect your opponents. There are only a few set ways for how the effect is applied for the common EX skills. The self AoE ones apply their effect in a sphere centered on the user. The target AoE ones create a stationary field at the target's position. The global AoE ones affect all allies or all opponents. The single target ones affect only the user or the target. The projectile ones fire a tracking projectile that explodes in a sphere that applies the effect only on hit. The activation of the EX skills are instant, with the exception of the projectile ones and the target AoE ones. The common EX skills can be categorized by their effects as follows. Mighty Strikes is the strongest EX skill in the game. It gives a buff that makes you and any teammate in range do double damage for 15 seconds. Bravery attacks now give you more bravery and removes more bravery from your opponents. More than 2 Mighty Strikes are not needed due to the duration, cooldown and downtimes in the game, to demonstrate the power of Mighty Strikes. Rend Shield makes any opponent in range take double damage. It is essentially the same as Mighty Strikes, but applied to your opponents instead. What makes Mighty Strikes better than Rend Shield is that you do not have to put yourself into a potentially risky situation to apply it. The self AoE debuff skills are most effective on assassins because their mobility makes it easier for them to get in position to use them. They should never be on a marksman. Weaken and Mighty Guard are the opposites of Mighty Strikes and Rend Shield. They reduce the incoming damage. There is, however, a scaling applied when damage is reduced past a certain point, so you will not always get the entire benefit from them. The problem with these 2 skills are that they only slow down the bravery buildup, but do not actually stop the HP damage from coming. Mighty Strikes and Rend Shield give you the opportunity to remove the bravery from your opponent while adding to your own. As for stacking buffs and debuffs, I will go through the damage formula another time, but I will just say that it's additive, not multiplicative. Therefore, Mighty Strikes plus Rend Shield gives times 3 damage, not times 4. Mighty Strikes plus Weaken give times 1.1 and Rend Shield plus Mighty Guard gives times 1, or no change. HP Regen is the only common EX skill that can counteract HP damage. This is what makes it the second best EX skill in the game. As with Mighty Strikes, it is not worth it having more than 2 HP Regens. On Interdimensional Rift and Alexandria, the games tend to be so fast that only having 1 HP Regen is sometimes enough. Share HP does not restore HP, it only redistributes it. There's also the chance that the total HP of your team decreases if you use it at the wrong time. It is instant, so it can be used to save a teammate from dying. Bravery Regen sounds good on paper, until you realize that 1000 bravery over 20 seconds is actually not that much. One combo with Mighty Strikes gives you around 1000 bravery. Share bravery should be used by characters using supporting hard-to-hit HP attacks. For example, Anishtola using Spiritual Ray. Enfeeble is an amazing skill for isolating people and stopping people from running away. Use it to secure a kill on an opponent while preventing their teammates from saving them. It can also be used to trap opponents in the final attack of summons, in particular Shivas. Vacuum can only be escaped by dashing, making it deadly when paired with certain HP attacks. Combined with Enfeeble, you can trap your opponents. Bravery Conduit gives your opponents a choice: move away or take the bravery damage. Another big perk is that it can be used as a quick, long-ranged way to break an opponent with low bravery. It counts as ordinary bravery damage, so buffs and debuffs to attack or defense affect it, making it good when paired with Mighty Strikes. Equip it on characters that have strong HP attacks and want more bravery. All 3 of these skills fire out a tracking projectile that explodes in a wide area. They have short cooldowns and annoying to deal with effects on hits. They have HP level projectile strength and Vanguard level interruption, no matter who uses them. They can give characters a very strong projectile. Use them in crowds to disrupt your opponents. Dispelga can aid you in hitting your HP attack without needing the help of your teammates. Teleport is an escape skill. The recovery after the teleport is too long in order to chase people. The invincibility is what makes this skill good for marksmen that generally do not have a way of dealing with opponents that have gotten in their face. Perfect defense sounds nice with being able to guard HP attacks and summon attacks which the game does not tell you. Perfect defense will work for moves with guard properties as well, but not for moves with parry properties. The problem is though that it needs to be activated beforehand, and timing it is not always easy to do. Boon and Jinx do the same thing, but for buffs and debuffs respectively. They work on any buff or debuff that have a duration, whether they come from EX skills or attacks. The big drawback with these two skills are that they have a long cooldown for just adding a few seconds to the durations, which makes them very situational. You want to stack as many buffs or debuffs as you can in order to get the most out of them. Another thing to add is that Jinx cannot increase the duration of any binds. A big part of Esunaga's and Dispelga's strengths come from the short cooldowns. However, since the metagame is buff-centric, Esunaga is not really that useful. As long as Mighty Strikes and HP Regen are the two best EX skills, Dispelga can be useful. The skill that you should always aim to remove is HP Regen. Remove the way of counteracting your HP damage. An additional thing to take note of is that the vast majority of the unique EX skills cannot be removed. Revivify is mainly useful on the big maps where you might need to move around a lot. Doom is basically just a bravery reset with a delay. If your opponent has Shiva, then the break state is over in an instance. Blindga, not to be confused with Bindga, is more of a slight annoyance than anything. It can make certain dark colored attacks quite a bit more difficult to see though. Mimic is very situational as to when it actually is worth equipping. Copying Mighty Strikes and HP Regen is useful, but your team should have those skills anyway. Provoke should be used to save teammates that are being hunted by an opponent, or to prevent an opponent from defending themselves from your teammates. The standard EX skill sets are Mighty Strikes and HP Regen on the Vanguard, HP Regen and Enfeeble on the Assassin, and Mighty Strikes and Teleport on the Marksman, with some adjustments based on team composition. The reason for why the Mighty Strikes is on the Marksman instead of the Assassin is because due to being on the front lines, the Assassin will likely need the HP restoration more, and the Marksman can safely deal damage from the back lines. However, these standard ES skill sets are not the only way to play. Dissidia NT is not a static game. There are plenty of situations where other skill sets are just as good or maybe even better. What you see here is my list of recommended EX skills. The goal of the game is to deal HP damage to incapacitate your opponents 3 times before they do it to you. Try to find your own sets to help you with this. The only thing I will not yield on is that you need Mighty Strikes on your team. It's too good of a skill not to have. You can substitute it with Ren Shield.